What's up, everybody? Blessed be. My name is Manon, and you are watching Witch in the Working, where we will be discussing all things witchy in and around, throughout and about, above, below, and beyond. Please visit me on my other platforms as well, including Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon, all links down in the description below. The full script of this video and most of the others is available on my Patreon account for download if desired, to build your own Witch in the Working BOS. Also, please visit my Shopify store listed in the description below to get your Witch in the Working shirts, mugs, stickers, bags, beanies, or what have you. There are tons of sacred and mysterious areas around the world that pique the interest of pagans, historians, archaeologists, anthropologists, and all the other ologists that exist in the academia world. To them, it's a matter of science, but to us pagans, it's a matter of magic and mystery as well. The Great Pyramids of Egypt, Peru, and Mexico, Machu Picchu in Peru, Stonehenge in England, the Uluru in Australia, the Blarney Stone in Ireland, Megalithic sites in Netherlands, the Abbey of St.Michael in France, just to name a few. Right here in the United States, just about every state itself has some sort of sacred site located within its boundaries. Right here in the good old state of New Hampshire, we have just such a site that at one time was called Mystery Hill. As of the 1980s, it was renamed as America's Stonehenge because of the similarities this ancient site has with that of Stonehenge over in England. In this episode of Witch in the Working, we're going to unearth some of these mysteries and dig into the history and riddles of this ancient site right here in our own backyard. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show, and roll the intro. Welcome back, everybody. So for the remainder of this video, I will be trying to refer to the America's Stonehenge as Mystery Hill moving forward when I can, but I just like the sound of that better. But regardless, let's dive right into it. So this fascinating and mysterious site lies in the small town of Salem, New Hampshire, not to be confused with Salem, Massachusetts, the witchcraft capital of the world. This site is a privately owned tourist attraction and archaeological site which consists of numerous stone structures scattered throughout 30 acres of land. This site was opened to the public in 1958 and was dubbed Mystery Hill. In 1982, the site name changed to America's Stonehenge, which was coined by a newspaper article from the early 1960s. The area is obviously named after the famous Stonehenge in England, although it should be known that there is no evidence of a connection between the two. However, there is a midsummer stone located on site that marks the midsummer sunset, and if you draw a direct line from this path across the globe, the line will intersect the Stonehenge located in England exactly. Scientists have done radiocarbon analysis throughout this site and have found evidence of humans occupying this site at least 4,000 years ago. There are a ton of unanswered questions that revolve around this ancient site, and the mystery remains just as great today as it has been for the last century. Nobody really knows exactly why this site is here and who originally built it. The only thing we do know is that it has been inhabited for at least 4,000 years by different peoples throughout the centuries. Some believe there is evidence of European settlers of some sorts that had settled here, and yet there is definitely evidence of Native American cultures that made this site here home as well. The man who bought this site in 1936, William Goodwin, believes that the site was occupied by Irish monks roughly 1,000 years ago. He gathered this assumption because he recognized some structures that resemble ancient structures in Ireland and thinks maybe the monks built them here as well. There was a home located on this site at one point back in the 1800s, occupied by the Paddy family. They owned the property from 1801 to 1849. Jonathan and his family were active participants in the Underground Railroad and helped to free slaves escaping the South and making their way north to Canada. There are numerous structures that are sunk into the ground in makeshift sort of caves and stone walls placed intricately to guide occupants through the maze of stone rooms and large stone markers. One of the most fascinating things about this site is the fact that when you are visiting the site, you are standing in the middle middle of a giant calendar. There are numerous large stones set up with alleyways carved throughout the forest that mark the months and the sunrise and sunsets of each month. This is part of the reason why this site adapted its Stonehenge name, because of the similarities of the English Stonehenge as well as marking particular seasonal occurrences over the thousands of years. The site, though extremely mysterious, is also quite simple. I don't see any better way to explain this phenomenal site than to take you with me on my visit there recently. So let's jump out of the studio and run over to the site and give it a run through. So this is the outside of the site. You walk into this quaint little gift shop posted at the entrance where you can purchase your tickets to get in. Maybe buy a little souvenir on your way out, and they even have a little snack bar to grab a quick snack and soda. Also in this little cabin is some exhibits set up going over some of the history of the site, reflecting items excavated over the years and a story behind them. Once you get your ticket, you're encouraged to waddle off to a side room that is a makeshift tiny theater room that shows a movie about 10 minutes long, a cinema-style documentary about these sites, so you're not walking into the site completely oblivious to what you're about to look at. And then it's out the double doors in the back of the cabin and onto the mysterious and ancient land. So one of the first things you encounter is this sundial. This is not an ancient thing that was part of the site. This is something that was built recently. The plaque near the sundial says a sundial is a device used to tell the time of day by the position of the sun. In a horizontal sundial, the sun casts a shadow from its style onto a marked surface indicating the time of day. The style is the time-telling edge of the gnomon, which is the part of the sundial that casts the shadow, often a thin rod or a sharp straight edge. While standing in the center of the sundial, hold the pole vertically to use a gnomon to cast a shadow on the sundial. The next thing you walk up on is the Pope Road Nature Trail. It's believed that the old Boston Pope Road ran through this site into northern Massachusetts and was used for travel by both Native Americans and as a part of the Underground Railroad. This is the remains of a Native American habitat site and wigwam. It contains 2 fire pits, in which one dates back about 2,000 years ago. They don't know exactly who constructed the site, but it was definitely by Native Americans at one point. This is a glacier boulder field. Some of these boulders were left here from the last glacier age called the Wisconsin Glacial Age. It started about 90,000 years ago and lasted until 12,000 years ago. The structure is called the Watch House. It lies just outside of the main site. Nobody is really sure what the purpose of this structure actually was. This is also a February 1st sunrise alignment. On Imbolg, the first rays of the sunrise light up the inside of this chamber. This pathway is called the Double-Walled Pathway. Some believe this was a ceremonial path used in celebrations of the winter solstice. This is called the Lower Well. It's never been fully excavated because of its water level. I myself wonder of the mysteries that may lie at the bottom. We finally get to the entrance of the main site. This chain link fence was erected by William B. Goodwin in 1937 to protect the area. William was first introduced to this site in 1936 by Malcolm Pearson. Within a year, he purchased 20 acres of the land in and around the site. William was an archaeological enthusiast, and his theory of this site was that it was used by Irish monks roughly 1,000 years ago. I personally don't buy this theory, as it just doesn't, make any sense in my opinion. The things here are much older than that. William didn't keep any kind of records, but if anything, we can thank him for securing this site and allowing us to now explore it in its present day. This is the Paddy area. This area was once basement of the Paddy family's home. Jonathan Paddy lived on this property from 1801 to 1849 and used this area of the site as a cellar hole. Paddy used the chambers on site to harbor runaway slaves that were heading north to Canada to gain their freedom. This chamber is called the south-facing chamber. This chamber is no longer safe for visitors because of the damage it sustained from an earthquake in 1982. This structure is known as the V-hut. In Western Europe, similar huts in the shape of a V came to be known as wedge tombs. There are also many similar huts in Ireland. All of these structures are known to face southwest and are roughly the same size. This structure is the east-west chamber. It was formerly known as the Tomb of Lost Souls because of its similarities to structures found on ancient European megalithic sites called the gallery graves. Some ask if there have ever been any bones of human remains found on the site. The soil here is very acidic and would break down any bones before they could be discovered, so the answer is no. This structure is called the Mensal Stone. It weighs approximately 6 to 8 tons and it appears to have been cut and raised to form a table of sorts. This structure is called the sun deck chamber. The chamber faces east and may have originally been the end of the east-west chamber. This is known as the oracle chamber. This small nook is called the secret bed. This niche is large enough for a person to crawl into and be completely hidden. Just above the secret bed is the speaking tube. Words spoken through this stone-lined tube exit under the sacrificial table and give the impression that the table is talking. There's a carving here of an antlered deer. This is known as the grooved table, or what everyone else likes to call the sacrificial table. This slab weighs approximately 4.5 tons and was quarried from underneath the astronomical viewing platform. It was believed to be used for ceremonial purposes, mainly because of its size and because of the oracle speaking tube that was beneath it, as well as the grooved channel that is thought to have allowed the blood to travel to a catch basin. The purpose of the ceremony was likely to honor and give sacrifice to the sun to keep the god of light from disappearing for good over the horizon during the darker half of the year. This is an equinox sunset alignment. This is the November 1st sunset stone and the February 1st sunset alignment. So I began to realize quickly that I was actually standing in a giant calendar. So rather than walk to each and every stone for the 12 months of the year, I journeyed over to the astronomical viewing platform. This platform stands in the center of an astronomical calendar. While observing these astronomical markers, keep in mind that at the time the site was built, the hilltop would have been mostly bare of trees and brush, giving the builders a clear view of the horizon. This wooden platform was erected in 1975. Researchers believe that there were 2 stone structures here shaped like beehives that would have stood at the height of the present-day floor. If you look towards the blue and yellow railings, you will be facing east and will be able to see the sunrise alignments. Many of the sunrise markers have fallen. The most visible marker that is still standing today is the summer solstice sunrise alignment. Recent discoveries by Kelsey Stone have shown that if you draw a line from this platform through the summer solstice sunrise stone, it will go directly through one of the trilithons at Stonehenge in England. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Witch in the Working. Have you ever been to America's Stonehenge? Have you ever visited any of the mysterious pagan sites around the world? Let us all know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and please subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to ring that little bell to be reminded of wonderful and exciting future episodes to come. I love you guys and gals. Blessed be.